There's a very specific place I encounter almost every day, where the sidewalk ends, a crossroads exists, and anyone who approaches it is presented with a handful of options. As time's gone on, I've formed quite the relationship with this spot. You're probably wondering why. Who cares? Don't you have better things to think about than the end of a concrete slab? Well, let me ask you something. At its core, how do you define success? What is getting what you want? What does that take? Because if someone asked me, I wouldn't have to say a word. I could point to that random, arbitrary intersection and let it do all the talking for me. So let me explain. For those who know nothing about me, I am an avid runner. And almost daily I put my running shoes on, I hit the pavement, most of the time long distances, sometimes middle distance. And it's a sacred time for me to push myself, to test my will, ultimately to see if I can be better today than I was yesterday. And every time I approach the end of my workout, I inevitably arrive at this spot, which is about a mile from my doorstep. And it forces me to ask a serious question. How bad do you want to win? My situation is simple. I can continue going straight. I can stay on the paved road where eventually another path forms and leads me to my doorstep. Or I can go left, I can jump onto the beach and finish that last mile off on the sand. Certainly not a life or death decision. Both paths lead me home. But I'll tell you something, when you're tired, when you're thirsty, when you've been running in the South Florida sun in August, running in the soft sand sucks, and it sucks just enough that you question every step. And I remember the first time I opted for the beach, right? Didn't think too much of it, but very quickly that changed. As every step sunk into the sand, as the sun glared down at me, I immediately began looking for a cop-out. Every thought revolved around the idea that I could stop, that this was stupid, it was unnecessary discomfort. Why the hell didn't I just stay on the sidewalk? But as you can imagine, time passed and I arrived home. The next time presented with the same situation, I went left and I felt the same way. But having done it before seemed to ease my mind. I put up with the physical obstacles, the mental gymnastics, and I got home. And then there was a third time and a fourth time and a fifth time, and then it became part of my routine. And a few weeks in, I realized that my thinking was completely different. And this is the important part, okay? See, now at this point, there were no negative thoughts. There was no self-loathing. My brain wasn't creating a sob story or attempting to highlight the impracticality of my decision. No, it was just routine. It was just what happens when you approach the end of your run. It doesn't matter how far you've gone, how hard you've pushed, how tired you are. You go left. You run on the beach. That's it, period. And it's a funny thing, when you've convinced yourself there are no other options, it becomes incredibly easy to adapt. You may understand where I'm going with this little story, because the moral isn't about running or the beach or Florida summers. It's about laughing in the face of those little inconveniences life throws at you. Doing the small things that make you better, putting yourself through the struggle in the short term for the win in the long term, training your mind to become stronger. Because I'll tell you, when it's hot, when you're tired, it becomes incredibly difficult to think about the macro. Our mind focuses on the small things, the now. Why put yourself through unnecessary hell? But what we learn when we do this is that not only do we become accustomed to anything, but we want the next thing. The reward becomes bigger than the temporary struggle. It's a mutual exchange, sweat for progress, pain for momentum, for a win. Humans are incredible in what they can achieve, how they can adapt to problems and rise above any set of circumstances. And this means when you come to your crossroads, maybe it's not physical. Maybe it's completely mental. Maybe it's a decision that you're scared to make, an obstacle you've been avoiding. It means you stop taking the easy road and you run right through it. You collect your bruises and scars and come out better for it because those small decisions matter. The meaningless runs in the sand become very meaningful. They're the roots that grow into your subconscious mind that encourage risks, that whisper in your ear that you're better, that you're worthy of more. And if you can't train your mind to fight the small battles, the big victories will forever remain a myth, reserved for the people you see on TV, the biographies you read on the weekends, and that's not you. You're not average, so stop thinking like you are. Evolve. Start stacking your pain, your discomfort, the little inconveniences you avoid. Stack them like bricks, because in time, you'll have something very real to stand on.